ranch. All of our livestock we raise for a product and also service. The services that they do for us is super important. And so pigs with their snouts are really good at rooting around. So we put them in denser areas, woodland areas to root around and disturb the growth to make room for new growth to kind of have different ages in the forest area. This specific pig and all the pigs we raise here are heritage breeds. And so this pig is, I think, 3/4 light black, 1/4 Tamworth. So heritage breeds were really popular before industrial farming took off, and small scale farmers and farmers who are more interested in kind of like celebrating the animal have started doing heritage breeds, and so they're slowly becoming like a little more popular than they were a few decades ago. They're really great to raise because they have all the instincts that pigs used to have before they were bred to just put on weight quickly, and so they can live outside in the winter. The mothers are really usually have a strong like maternal instinct. They're really good at rooting around for us, which is a positive when you have lots of wooded areas to put them.
Some of these kind of traditional harvest methods have been, that information hasn't been passed down as well because it went to such an industrial system. We removed ourselves so much from the harvest side of it that even in Colorado right now, it's really difficult to get skin on pork. I mean, can you guys find skin on pork fairly easily or not? I mean, not within Colorado, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it would come from out of state.
Yeah. So there's only a few processors that we as kind of small farmers have access to, and most of them choose not to leave skin on. So there's one reason. Second thing that we're really looking at is, those processors that we work with, there's a ton of loss in there. When they're going through that process as quickly as they can and just looking at numbers and trying to get pounds moved across the rail, they're cutting and we're losing all this beautiful skin, all this beautiful fat. Typically they have about a 30% waste when we get it, when we get it from the processor. There's about 30% waste just to get it to hanging weight. When we do it on the ranch here, we usually have about 8 or 9% waste. So the things that we really discard are, I don't do much with lungs, I don't do much with stomach and small intestine. You can certainly clean the small intestine and use it for casing. It's just a ton of work for us. But other than that, we save the heart, we save the liver, we've got kidneys in here, we save all the fat, we took the head, made head cheese, tail stays on, goes in the soups. We'll continue to clean up the hocks a little bit, the feet, we can use the trotters for soups. A lot of the stuff that the processor just gets discarded. They cut this, throw it away, cut this, throw it away, cut off the head, throw it away. So, how do we process pigs on our farm?
So we're fortunate to have various things, people buying half a pig or whole pig, so we can do a handful of slaughters on the ranch, which is a really cool process because a lot of our pigs are born here, and so for them to never leave the property is just kind of like a cool, like, stressless life that they live. And so we choose to slaughter our pigs in what we've researched and have been able to do as like the most humane process. And so our pigs are animal welfare approved, and so we follow guidelines to from birth to slaughter to do a really humane process. So we keep the pigs all together. If you isolate a pig, it causes a lot of stress and they just get freaked out and they get scared. So we keep the pigs together and we withhold their feed until we're ready to go slaughter the animal, which is usually like late morning. And we put their feed bowls upside down so their heads are a little higher, and we kind of like isolate them so we can select the pig that we want. And so the pigs are busy eating, they're totally distracted, and then we found the pig we want, we get it so it's eaten by itself, and then with the .22 Magnum, Jason stuns the pig. And so we shoot kind of like directly at it to stun it in the brain, and then the pig immediately drops, and the other pigs don't even know what's happening. They're eating food, they're not phased. And so now
it's really surprising the first time. Like they barely even flinch, and some don't even flinch at gunfire.
Yeah, they're feet away and they're I flinch more when I know what's gonna happen. And so then the pig's stunned and it's unconscious, and we slit its carotid artery and bleed it out.
Different approaches. So this is just one way. I love to leave the kidney in because it's surrounded by fat, and like anytime I pull the kidney out before that, it really just starts to dry out really quickly. So I leave that kidney in. Because I'm going to break this into quarters, so I call this the leg quarter is a ham. We'll pull out the loin, we'll separate the belly, and then the front I call the shoulder. Well, for me to get this cut, I've got a couple things in the way first. So this is caul fat, is the fat that surrounds the kidneys and the internal stomach, and this we can just pull off. This is the highest quality fat of the animal. So if we render this down, it's going to be snow white, and it's going to have very little or no kind of pig taste or flavor. The back fat, when you render that down, it turns a bit yellow and has a little bit of a piggy kind of flavor, pork flavor. Now there's benefits to both. This caul fat is really soft, so it's great for things like pastries and dough. And the back fat is a lot firmer, so that firmer fat is really great for sausage making, and when you want to cut fat into stuff that, like, if you're going to eat that fat, this caul fat, if you ground it into sausage, is going to be it'll give kind of a mushy texture. So just recognizing that. So this we can kind of just pull off with our fingers. And we'll take that. I'll usually throw that in the grinder to get it broken into as small pieces as possible, and then render that down. Then what we've got left here, we left the hanger steak is hanging. This is actually both sides. When we split, I just kind of pull them off to one side. So I'm going to pull the hanger steak. And these were traditionally known as butcher's cuts because it just wasn't enough. You'd need a lot of animals to make a decent steak like that. So the butchers would usually just take that home. The same thing with this skirt. On a pig, this really just wasn't worth enough to try to market, and like old butchers were only going through, they weren't going through a ton of pigs. This changed with the industrial system, so as we think of like skirt steak now with beef, we go through a ton of animals. And so there's, on the industrial scale, there's lots of this product, but there's still, we get one skirt steak, one hanger steak per animal. The other interesting thing I think here is this all, I love pork because it relates to just about everything else. We can scale this up and we can relate to beef cuts. Now beef is such bigger muscles that you have an opportunity to isolate different muscles. So I haven't done much beef butchery just because of the scale of it. But when we talk about lamb, sheep, goats, deer, elk, this is all pretty much the same thing. We're going to usually break into similar quarters with all those animals. So now I've got this all cleaned out on the inside and ready. I'm going to look for natural breaks. A lot of butchers that I've seen they grab the saw first and they're ready to just start hacking away at it. And we really want to use a knife to cut the meat, and we want to use a bone to cut soft. When I look at this spinal cord here, there's a little dip right at the tail. I like to come one vertebrae up and give myself kind of a mark of where I'm going. So I'm just going to do a straight line. This is, I forget if they determine it's like American cut or European cut, but I'll make a little mark of where I want to cut in here, and I'm just going to cut straight down to the cutting board. Flip this over, and now I'm just going to connect the dots. As we come back, again, we're looking for that natural break point. So instead of even getting the saw out, I should be able to make a little cut here. And now we've got the leg quarter separated out. So again, breaking this into just kind of more manageable sized pieces, we're going to do a similar thing up at the front. I traditionally look for the cut between the 4th and the 5th rib. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4. So between 4 and 5 is just where I've always been taught to cut. So I'm just going to follow that rib line down. I'm going to get to this kind of sternum part and I can sneak underneath. And again, cut straight down to the cutting board. We're looking for this vertebra to come up. I'm just going to go right there today. And again, I'm just going to take kind of a straight line. Again, flip that over, connect the dots. This front leg here, so we want to cut in between those bumps. If I bend this way back, I can get a better cut and then just start to use that natural break again to kind of open it up. And hopefully, I won't have to get the saw out. There we go. So trotter, I'm gonna pull aside. That little bit of fur is really hard to get with this bell scraper. A blowtorch works really well at that part. So, and we can kind of carve. I can clean that pretty easily and get it out. So this little section here, I'm just gonna follow. I favor the bacon at this point, so this belly is traditionally gonna get turned into bacon. So I'm gonna cut the ribs pretty close and favor the ribs because I want that belly. So this little kind of triangular piece, we're just gonna follow that kind of natural seam. Ryan, 1/2 of ribs. 1 rack of ribs per half animal. How many animals have you killed just to satisfy your rib obsession?
Easily 20.
So up at the top of the loin, we've got our kind of rib chops. The lower part, I go into kind of a, not quite sirloin. Sirloin's down a little further. So I usually don't leave skin on for chops. So there's this really cool, just natural seam where you can see, do you see that little line there? There's like a little difference of a slightly firmer fat and a softer fat. And I want to use that seam to our advantage. So I'm just gonna kind of get my fingers in here and get this started. And now, again, we're just paying attention to those kind of natural breaks and kind of let the animal tell us what to do. Once I get this started, it should be a little faster. So this is a really great fat to work with. So if I'm doing charcuterie or something that I want like a really high quality, just keeps its firmness and texture fat, I'll use this. And I can put this into kind of more manageable size sections, just cut right across there, and then similar to like filleting salmon or fish, kind of come in and you can usually just cut straight off, towards the cutting board. Separate the fat from the skin. Now I've got something I can do with chicharrones. for something to play around the skin, have a nice clean skin, and I've got a nice diceable, nice size fat there. Mark, it's not working the way I wanted it to. But we can go through and get these beautiful chops with loads of fat on. You can clean this up a little bit if you wanted, but I leave the fat on. I render this down in the pan and like create my own cooking fat that renders nice and crispy. I don't need olive oil, I don't need anything. This is a self-contained, ready to go chop. So I'll replicate the same thing there. Because I don't have a bandsaw and can't pull off this this chine bone very easily. I mean, I can take this cleaver and kind of chop my way down, but it's not as clean as a cut with a bandsaw. So I have to kind of one by one go through each rib and chop it off. So I'll do that in a few minutes. Last part is this back part of the loin. I usually try to bone this out, and I just want to follow this. Oh, we left the tenderloin out. We could cut straight down, and we'd make little porterhouses or T-bones. So we'd get our New York strip and our tenderloin and have like a porterhouse or T-bone. For this, just to show you a loin roast, I'm going to pull this tenderloin out and then debone it. And we'll have this really beautiful loin roast. Yeah, this is like, they don't do sit-ups. So like, that's why this part is so desirable, because it's super tender and super delicious. This leg is super lean because it's worked around a lot. The shoulder's got tons of just like sinew and muscle and stuff like that. So.